I'm a nobody from nowhere that ain't never done nothing. That's what I am. An old head. These young coaches, I tell you what, I can't figure these jokers out. They got a backpack on and tight something. I don't know what they're doing. They're getting on my nerves. I can tell you that. I know what ain't in the backpack. A string and a let me paint that line for you. That ain't in there. That's for sure. I had a kid the other day. He said, "Hey, coach, didn't Christopher Columbus write the Pledge of Allegiance?" I said he sure did. He also played quarterback for the 1985 Chicago Bears. He said, bet. That happened. Sun Coaches, Season 6, where coaches come and tell their stories. Some of them are funny. Some of them is going to help you in your coaching journey. Not everybody has a funny story, but everybody has a story. Hope you enjoy Sun Coaches, brought to you by Titan Sensor. Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sensor for Season 6 and 7. Titan is made in the USA, proudly founded and based in Texas. When you connect with Titan, you are not alone. You can collaborate and share templates with other coaches across the country to build reports and foster competition. Used by programs such as State 6A Georgia State champion Grayson High School, Titan can tailor a package to fit your needs. The eye in the sky never lies. Improve your team's performance with Titan. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 6, and today I'm excited to be joined by the head coach at Dade County High School, Coach Jeff Poston. Thanks for being on with me.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Coach, I know that you are actually an alumni of Dade County, so I don't have to ask you where you're from on the other side of the mountain up there. And when did you graduate from Dade County?
I graduated in 1992, and I am an alum of Dade County, but I lived when I was a kid. I was born in Asheville, North Carolina. And then we moved to Virginia Beach. My parents got divorced. My grandparents were living here. So we came back to Dade County, and then my mama married another guy. He joined the Army. We went to Fort Riley, Kansas for a year, came back here for a year of fifth grade, and then we went to Germany. And I stayed in Germany for 3 years, and I came back here for high school. So,
man, that's awesome. You've been all over the place.
I'm telling you, man, it's I appreciate it a lot too now as a older person. You know, when I was in the fifth grade, I was kind of pissed. I was leaving my buddies and going to Germany, but when I got over there, I loved every minute of it. And, I really appreciate that experience now.
Yeah, I've never been to Europe. I would imagine as a kid that getting to experience that was probably pretty cool.
Yeah, we used to have our field trips. I went to Ludwigsburg Middle School, and it's right outside of Stuttgart. And we lived, in the first year we were there, we lived what they call living out on the economy, which just means you rent an apartment from a German family, So we had the first floor, and the owners had the second floor, and their son lived on the third floor. And I've been to a real Oktoberfest. Our field trips in school, we would go skiing up in the Alps. I've been to Berchtesgaden. I've been to Vienna, Austria. Been in London and Paris. And, looking back on that, how amazing that was as a kid. Like, you just took it for granted. At the time, it's just something you were doing. But now I'll see something like watching Jason Bourne, and they're racing through Vienna, and I'm like, I've been there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Crap, you could probably get to Vienna and Paris and places like that quicker than you can get to some of the playoff destinations y'all have had to go from Dade County.
You got that right. You get on a train. Everywhere we went, we rode a train, and it didn't take long to get there. So.
Well, that's awesome. Well, when you got to high school at Dade County, what all did you play? I know you've been wrestling coach as well at Dade County. What sports did you play besides football?
Well, I played football and I played basketball a couple of years, and I ran track. That's the funny thing. I never wrestled. All my best friends wrestled, and I wrestled with them. You had to fight them off all the time. But I always had, like, in the back of my mind, wished I had wrestled. And then so those are the three sports that I played. And I didn't play basketball the whole time. I played my freshman year and my senior year. And the only reason I played my senior year because football was over, and I was like, well, what the crap am I going to do now? So.
Well, who was your coach in high school?
Well, I had two. Johnny Morris was the first 2 years, my ninth and 10th grade year. And he graduated from Darlington. He was up here with Coach Mackersey in the late 80s and was my coach first 2 years. My junior and senior year, we had Whit Taylor, who was the last quarterback at Vanderbilt to beat Tennessee before Jay Cutler did it. And him and a guy named Steve Britton. And a lot of people don't know this, but also Gene Durden was one of my football coaches a couple of years, big basketball coach in the state of Georgia, and Alan Long, and a guy named Steve Britton, who's a Tennessee guy. But Whit Taylor was the head coach.
Yeah, that's awesome. So did you get an opportunity to play at the next level, or did you just go to school to be a student?
I had an opportunity, but it was at the University of Cumberland's. I still find my workout instructions and stuff every now and then when I'm going through the safe. But I had my dad lived in Virginia Beach. And so in the summer times, I would go up there and work like a dog. So I graduated, went up there and working like a dog. And the whole time, my position coach is calling me and he's like, "Hey, you doing your workouts?" I'm like, "Oh, yes, sir." I wasn't doing the first one, So it got time to go to school. And I was like, if I go down there, them guys are going to kill me. And I wound up not going, kind of regret that. And then I went to Dalton State for a while, and I went to Old Dominion up in Norfolk for a while. And then when I say a while, I mean like a year and a half's worth of time between the both. And then I got married in 1994 to my wife, who I'd met in school, and I went to work, so I didn't even graduate college. I had a business. I'd grown up in the tile business with my dad, tearing out bathrooms and redoing bathrooms. And so that's what I did. I did that all the way through 2010. I mean, I in 2008, I guess, whenever we bought this house we're in, we bought it in August of 2008. And I think in September of 2008 is when everything collapsed economically, for a while. And so in 2009, I did about 5 jobs. And so my wife came home one day. She had went back to school and started teaching in about 2007. And I'd always wanted to coach. And I told her when she came in, I said, "Look, I'm going to go back to school, or you going to come home one day and I'm just going to leave you a note on where to find me." Because I was just sitting there watching out everything we'd worked for our whole life, bank account every day just drained down, and I thought, I've got to do something that's positive. So I went back to Dalton State and finished my teaching degree and graduated in December of 2013. And Bradley Warren had given me a coaching job in fall of 2013, coaching defensive ends. And that's how I got started in coaching.
So you had a very non-traditional path. You actually had a real job.
I did. And that's what I tell people when I hear teachers complaining. I'm like, y'all don't have a clue, man. Y'all whining about something. You in an air conditioning and a heated building all the time. Like I've come out I make a cut on a wet saw, go in and put a piece of tile in, come out to make the next cut, and the scrap piece be frozen to the saw. So y'all don't have a clue about real work. So
yeah, that's definitely gives you a unique perspective on how important an education can be, or if you want it to be, and chasing your dream. I mean, you understand what these kids deal with that want to go work, and that are just playing ball just for the fun of it, and the fellowship and the team aspect and everything else, because you went to work.
Yep.
I mean, and you worked for a long time doing that.
Yep. And I do not miss it. I did it. I did it when I first got my first paycheck. I called my wife. I said, I've made a huge mistake. I said, I don't know what I was thinking, but this dreaming stuff ain't going to work out. So I was still doing tile work on the side for years. Probably only gave it up the last, 3 or 4 years. But every summer, now I'm on a 12-month contract, but before then every summer I was trying to go out here and do, 3 or 4 jobs in the summertime, or help some of my old contracting buddies that needed some help and make some extra money. And now when people call, I'm like, you know what? I got a phone number for you, but it ain't going to be me.
Well, when you have a marketable skill, you can do stuff like that. And that's pretty cool too, is having, you can do something. I, however, cannot. So there's that. I can paint. That's about it.
I'm telling you.
But that's pretty awesome. So Coach Warren, Dade County alum himself, one of the only people until you become the head coach to win at Warren County and Dade County in the past. Dade County in the past 25 years hires you. What was your first gig there? Like, what was your first job?
I started out as defensive line, and it was defensive ends mainly, and then I was the head middle school wrestling coach. Was the first gig that I had, and an assistant high school wrestling coach, and I did that for 3 years, and then he made me the head high school wrestling coach and the head middle school football coach. And when Coach Warren was here, we did everything together, middle school and high school. So I was still coaching defensive line. When the high school would be on offense, I would have the middle school on defense. And when the middle school would be, on offense, I'd have the high school on defense. Is the way we did it back then. And so I did that till, like I said, till 2017. He made me the head wrestling coach. And that's pretty much from there. We first year, I think we won 8 duels, and I think we lost about 31 because I went everywhere to wrestle. And I had some kids I had brought up through middle school that they hit high school in that 2018 season, 2018, 2019. So that year we wound up making the state duels. We finished second in our area, and we finished second to Pepperell. We lost 39-38, and we lost that because I got hit with a technical violation for something I said over on the side of the mat that the official thought I was saying to him. And so we made the state duels, and went down there, and I thought, man, with our first round we had Bremen, who was rolling through people, at the time, and the kids were like, "What are you gonna do if we win it?" I said, "Guys, y'all finish in the top 4, I'll dye my hair pink." Well, we finished freaking 4th. I mean, so I had pink hair, looking like a fool, and the next year I think we finished 5th, and then the next year we finished second to Oglethorpe in the duels, lost by 9 to them. And the next year, we really should have won it. That's why I have such a dislike of private schools. We lost to Lovett in the semifinals of the duels by 6, and they destroyed Oglethorpe in the finals. But they had brought in 3 kids that were nationally ranked, and I'd had them same group of boys, preaching a dream to them since they were in 6th grade. And we lost to them in the semifinals in the duels and finished second to them in the traditional tournament. So those guys that we brought through, I think we wound up making the state duels every year, or until this last year. We finished 3rd in our area, and we didn't get to go. So, and then when we got back from the state tournament in February, I told them that I was going to focus on football.
So there you go.
Yeah.
So when did you, after Coach Warren left, is that when you became the head football coach at Dade County?
No, actually, I went in to talk to Coach Cooper, who was the athletic director at the time, and the new athletic director, Coach Warren was before he left. And he had told me, well, your only real thing on the resume is that you've been the head middle school coach, and you've only been a position coach and not been a coordinator. And I was like, okay, I mean, that makes sense to me. I don't. So I told my wife, they hired Dale Pruitt, Jeremy Pruitt's daddy. He came in 2019. And I told my wife, I worked for him. He was great. And I told her, I said, look, I'd been talking to Bradley, and he said I could come down to McIntosh and be, defensive coordinator. And I told her, I said, I'm going to have to move if I ever want to be a head coach, and I got a late start. So if I ever want to do this, I'm going to have to. Well, come about December or January, Coach Pruitt left to go to Marion County over in Tennessee. And I didn't think anything about that. I told those guys, so look, he's 62 years old. This ain't a football factory. This is a place where, you're going to have ups and downs, and you need somebody who wants to be here. And he'd figured out real quick, I might need to go somewhere where they, put a little more into football. And so anyway, we were at a wrestling tournament, and Coach Cooper called me, and he said, hey, would you consider being the head football coach? And I was like, well, yeah, I would. So I went and met with him, and then he brought in 2 or 3 people, including Danny Wilson, who was a guy who'd been at South Pittsburgh and Cleveland, Tennessee, and he's over there with Roon Gable at Chattooga right now, a guy that's won, more games than I've coached, so I thought there ain't no way I'm going to get this job. But they had a committee, and when I walked in to the committee, there was a guy I had graduated with that was over rec football, and all the parents on the committee were wrestling parents. And I thought, well, if I can't win these guys over, I really don't stand a chance of ever being the head coach. So anyway, I got it in February of 2020. So, and 2 weeks later, the world shut down. So
welcome to your first head football coaching job.
telling you, man, taking kids, and we always had, like I said, our middle school was always with us. We had to move them to the middle school and use that visiting locker room that we keep them in. We put younger kids in there, and we put 3 lockers in between every kid, and we had to film, every single position group just so, make sure contact tracing and all that junk. And I almost got in trouble with our principal at the time. I I used to call him Jamie Fauci because he would love to send you home, but he would. The first 2 days of school, he sent the entire volleyball team and the entire cheerleading team home. So I told our football boys, hey, look, if y'all want to have a season, y'all probably need to go virtual, because we had virtual school option at the time. Well, my quarterback goes in to the office to get the virtual papers, and the principal's like, what are you doing? He said, well, Coach Poston told us we need to go virtual. I ain't never been cussed on the phone like that ever.
Well, you're just being honest.
Yeah, I said, well, hell, you done sent 2 whole teams home, man. I said, there's a whole list of contact tracing rules we're supposed to follow. I said, we'll follow them. I mean, I'll go with your way. But it worked out, and we only won 2 games that year, but we lost 2 games by 2 points and 2 games by 3 points. And we got hammered by Gordon Lee, and we got hammered by Fannin County. So there was a little bit of progress, but we started 5 or 6 freshmen that year too. So,
and then progressed to
the next year. We went 7-4, and we played Fannin County for the region championship, and we lost to them by 4 points at their place. We had a kid, Landon Williams, 3-time state champion here wrestler, that one of the best football players ever. He was playing outside linebacker, and he squeezed down. And the Reese kid up there that they had that was so daggum good, he went 65 yards for a touchdown. And then they had a linebacker who made some amazing one-handed interception that sealed the game for him. But I'll never forget. Like, I was proud because, my whole thing here is, like, I love this place, and it's trying to get these kids to understand that, just because people on the other side of the mountain say you ain't no good at something, don't mean you have to accept that. You don't have to let that be your ceiling. And so we fought, and that was something that I've been proud of is we may lose, we may have down years where our kids ain't as good, but most of the time when we go out there, we're going to try to smack you in the mouth. And that a couple of years ago, we had to play Bowden because we had lost a team from North Carolina we were playing. And that's one thing that Coach Finley always tells me when he sees me. And they beat us. We were up 15-14 on them at one time, but they wound up beating the crap out of us. But he said, our kids ain't never been hit in the mouth like you hit them in the mouth. And I thought, man, that's a team that's just won 3 state championships, and everything they do in the weight room, I'm trying to watch it on Twitter and write it down and emulate it. And I was pretty proud of that. So
yeah, for those that don't know, especially younger guys out there, Dade County is the county in the top westernmost corner of the state of Georgia, and to get there, you've got to go either around or over Lookout Mountain.
Yep.
To get there. And I have a story for you, Coach. So I'm at Temple coaching baseball, and it's our first game. So we're in the region with Dade County. So we're going to play Dade County, first game of the season, full region schedule. So we leave at like lunch because we're supposed to play 2. And we leave at lunch, and we go up there, and we stop in Cartersville, and we eat, feed the kids. Everything's great. We rock on up 75, and about the time we get to Chattanooga, we come to a screeching halt.
Yep.
A tractor trailer truck had jackknifed in Tennessee, somewhere on the other side of Lookout Mountain, going around the mountain.
Yeah.
So we're stuck we were 12 miles away. It took us 7 hours to get from Cartersville to Dade County High School.
Wow.
And we pulled, they kept calling me. They're like, Coach, where you at? Coach, where you at? And I'd stop. And at the time I smoked like a chimney. And I'd get off the bus, smoke, because we ain't going nowhere. For some reason, somebody decided it would be smart if we got off the interstate and then cut across and went through Chattanooga and just went up Lookout Mountain and went around that way. So we're in downtown Chattanooga, and coaches are calling me. They're like, well, the officials are here. Tell me where you're at. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm in downtown Chattanooga. I'm from Augusta. I got no idea where I'm at. And he's like, well, what's around you? And I'm like, well, there's a Chinese restaurant, an adult bookstore, and a liquor store and a church. I know exactly where you're at. All right, just come on down this road. You're going to pass the museum, come up around the mountain. And it still took us like 2.5 hours to get there from there because the traffic was so backed up. And it was like the trip from hell. And then we lost like 7-5. That should have been a preview of how the whole season was going to go for me and our team that year. But I'll never forget that trip up there. And that was 2000 and had to be like 08.
Yeah.
07, 08, sometime around in there. But
might have been Coach High. Was Coach High the baseball coach?
Coach, I can't remember.
Gotcha.
All I remember is the trip. And that we lost 7-5, and it was brutal. It was the longest trip ever to get up there. Coming back wasn't no problem.
Yeah.
And then everybody was like, well, yeah. And then, most of our kids never been there, and they didn't understand that we had to go into Tennessee to come back into Georgia. They were like, oh my God, I can't believe this school's actually part of Georgia. We're going into another state to go around the mountain and then coming back into Trenton to where the school's at. And beautiful place, and I love mountains, so I was all about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're definitely in a unique situation up there on the other side of the mountain.
And Chattanooga is a hellhole to try to get through. I tell everybody, if you're coming up here, if you're coming from south, get off at Resaca Lafayette exit on 136 and come straight across the mountain on 136. That comes right to the high school, because if you go through Chattanooga anytime after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're going to be very angry. So
yeah, that's what we ended up. Well, we tried to do that. We ended up couldn't get over. We were on a bus because everybody and their brother was trying to, apparently knew how to go that way. And then we would be in the wrong lane. And, we're on a school bus. Nobody would let us over. So we had to turn right off of 75 and go into town to get turned around to come back down. Oh, it was a mess. And,
yeah.
it was like being in Atlanta.
Yeah. I'm telling you, at certain times of day, it's just as bad.
And then they kept calling. They're like, well, Coach, where you at now? And I'm like, we're in front of the museum. And then like 45 minutes later, well, where you at now? We're on top of the mountain. We're getting close. And they're like, well, as soon as you start coming down the mountain, you're going to run right into the school. We're at the bottom of the mountain. We're right here. And I'm like, well, nobody wants to be there sooner than me, I promise.
Get off and start smoking in the parking lot of school.
I think I smoked a pack of cigarettes getting on and off that bus that day. It was a mess. It was terrible. But yeah, it's such a cool place up there, and just good people in a good area. And you got Chattanooga right there, all the bad as far as the traffic goes, but you got places to eat, and
yep.
You can get to Atlanta if you wanted to. And I don't know what's further north, but there's something up the road that's not terrible that you can get to, that has a Lowe's and a Home Depot and Walmarts and places to eat. And then, Alabama's right there on the west side. So,
yep. Yeah, that's where
situation.
Most of the time, my wife and I, we're going out to eat. We go to Fort Payne. We'll go down there and eat. They got, like you said, they got a Walmart and a Lowe's and all that. And they got a Santa Fe Steakhouse. It's about all I care about. But we'll go down there and get something to eat instead of going into Chattanooga, and you ain't got to worry about the traffic on the way back.
So with such a unique situation that you have up there, what are some of the things that you've had to do program wise that are a little bit different? You mentioned the middle school practicing with the middle school. What are some other things that you've had to do that may be a little bit different from bigger programs deal with?
You know, a lot of times, like this year, we've got about 45 kids. You know, I think the most we've ever had is right at 60. So you're always like, we got to start young kids. You know, I know we're not the only people unique to have to start young kids. This year we'll have a pretty much entire sophomore offensive line. I'll have one kid that I moved to offensive line who's going to be a junior, but moved him there kicking and screaming. But I'm like, Lord, dude, if you don't, I don't know what we'll do if you don't. But yeah, we practice, you know, with middle school. We try to bring them in and practice with us and try to get them to do what we do. That's been a little harder here lately because the middle school league changed their game days to Tuesdays, and it used to be on Thursday, and you could have everybody at practice, you know, have position groups where you run middle school through that, but it's kind of a pain in the butt now. So if you had a middle school coach who was also a varsity assistant with a game day on a Tuesday, that's one of your biggest work days varsity wise. So it's almost impossible to do. So, you know, those are some things that we have to do. And, just the, you know, I know we're not unique to having to raise all our own money and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people have to do that. But the travel situation, nobody wants to come to us, and we got it, you know, but they want us to go to them all the time. So, those are some things that, you know, I don't think people really understand too. Like most places in the state of Georgia, your coordinators are going to have extra days. Some of your position coaches are going to have extra days. You know, your head basketball coach, all those guys are all going to have extra days. You can use that to get coaches in. Well, we don't have any of that. So it's hard to get coaches in here unless they're retiring out of Alabama. You know, we just got a good coach that worked in Fort Payne and Birmingham and down in was head coach at Valley Head for a while. We just got him this month. You know, he's a retiree out of Alabama. And if it's not for that, I mean, it's just hard to get guys up here to coach. You know, we just had a girls basketball coach. You know, Gene Durden was here forever. And some things that happen around here, I say, well, that's the ghost of Gene Durden. You know, people still think it should be that way. But whenever the basketball coach left this year, and all those girls, you know, those women now that played for Gene, they're pitching a fit about what they want out of a basketball coach. Well, I downloaded the Buford pay scale and, you know, what them dudes make down there and gave it to our athletic director. I said, when they come in here next time, let them take a peek at this. You know, them jokers ain't coming up here to coach basketball at Dade County. So those are some things that we have to deal with. Mainly is just the pay is probably 15 years behind most places in the state. And I wish that we could get that fixed. But I think it's probably going to be another 5 or 10 years before we get it fixed.
What were some things when you came in? I mean, you played there, you started your coaching career there, and your kids probably went there. And what were some things that when you took over as the head football coach that to put your own spin on it that you've done a little bit differently?
Well, when Coach Warren was here, he ran, you know, that double wing stuff that he loves, and you know, jet and all that stuff. And when I got here, we went to the spread. And the reason I did it is because we always struggle with numbers, and some of your best athletes in the school that you need to play are basketball guys, and they don't want to line up out at wide receiver and block and get 2 balls a game. So we went to the spread, and the numbers have gotten better. This year we're kind of down numbers. We've only got like 7 seniors and maybe about 6 juniors. Everybody's freshmen and sophomores. This is the lowest numbers we've had since the first year when we had 30-something. But I changed what we do on offense, and that seemed to build a little bit of excitement, you know. And I try to take the kids, like every year we go to the University of Georgia, go down there for 7-on-7. We played Marion County in Tennessee. We played Swain County up in North Carolina. I try to take them play. We played Athens Academy over there in Athens, Georgia, even though we had no business playing them. Kirby Smart on the sideline. I promise you he wasn't there to watch our kids. So I try to do things like that to put because those are things I think is important, because like I said, I'm trying to get these kids to realize, like, just because somebody says that you can't or can't do something, that doesn't mean anything. Our goal here is to win a region championship, and we finished second twice. Since I've been here, I'm proud of that. We made the playoffs 4 years in a row. That nobody had ever made it 2 years in a row beforehand. I'm proud of that. And it's just getting kids to realize, like we got a kid right now that's at the Air Force Academy, that's over 1,000 kids. We had a kid go to the Naval Academy. We've had people win Grammys in this county, and they just, I don't know. There's just like a mindset here of, well, it's just Dade County. There's only so much we can do. And that's the thing that I fight the most every day, and Coach Warren fought it as well. His personality is probably just a little bit different than mine. He's more of a blunt type person, I guess. And I guess I try to pull people along a little bit longer than what he did. And, anyway, those are the things that I'm trying to change.
How do you work the weight room? Do you get all your guys in the weight room, or is that something that y'all aren't able to do?
We get them all in there, but it's in different blocks during the day. And I don't run the weight room. I try to poke my head in there. For several years, I did a 6 a.m. workout and brought everybody in that I could get in. And then those kids would actually work out twice. We tried to not do what they were doing, in class in the morning workout. But we've got a guy that runs our weight room who's actually the head softball coach now. And he's done a good job the last couple of years. And we're finally getting our strength numbers back where they need to be. We'd kind of dropped off for a minute, but we get them all in there, but not at the same time. I wish we would have something. I've tried to get them to give us a 0 period to bring all those older football guys in, like at 6:30 in the morning or something, but I can't. That's one wall I haven't been able to knock down for some reason.
Yeah, that's tough when most of the people you're competing against, at worst, they've got 2 blocks where they're getting varsity guys in one and younger guys in the other one, and you're just happy to get them in there, period.
Yeah, and I mean, they may have it 4th block at the end of the day and then turn around and have to practice, so it's just that's a pain in the butt. Balancing that is something that really needs to change, and I'm just going to keep asking until they get tired of telling me no.
That's a good philosophy. So what did you do? Like, how do you do spring up there? Have you changed it over the years, or do you stay with the same formula? Do you play each other for a spring game, or do you try to go out and find somebody else to play?
We have played other people, and this spring was the most frustrating spring I've had. Our superintendent has moved our graduation back a week, which really, at the time, I didn't realize what a pain in the butt that was going to be for trying to have spring practice with everything that's going on. You had to back spring practice up, and we played Southeast Whitfield for 3 years, and then the last 2 years we played Plainview, where Dale and Jeremy Pruitt are. And I like having a game for them to play. The main reason I want to get spring ball is to try to get the 8th graders there, and get them, kind of used to what we're doing and get the expectations, communicated to them. But and that's the main thing in spring that I'm looking for, is try to get 11 guys on offense and 11 guys on defense and find out if somebody can help us. But with the way the graduation's been moved back, now you got track where kids are still running track, and we ain't had to deal with baseball. We ain't been very good in baseball in a couple of years, but the 8th grade stuff, believe it or not, some of the most aggravating things to deal with. The 8th grade track goes longer than the dadgum high school track. And then you got an 8th grade trip they do every year, either in Georgia or to Washington, D.C. or whatever. So I actually had thought after this spring, we had so much rain and stuff too, that we really only got 6.5 decent practices in. And I thought, man, next year I'm not doing this. I'm just going to wait until June, and I might have to run down some 8th grade kids that ain't used to, don't know who I am, and that I expect their butt to be there at 7 a.m., come the first week of June. But I still think that as long as that date of graduation's moved back, it's just a hassle. And I don't know. We don't have enough kids. One year our quarterback was a hurdler, and we're in spring practice. And we didn't have a quarterback the first week. So it's like I don't know if I want to fight that battle anymore.
Well, that's what I was about to say. You got to share athletes so much at a school like that, and you want the kids active in everything. And you said earlier some of your better athletes playing basketball, and well, if they're doing that, they're probably doing something in the spring too.
Oh yeah, they are, and that's another thing. We got a new boys basketball coach, really good friend of mine. He coached football with me for a while, and so the last 2 years, the activity in June has skyrocketed for basketball. Well, we had gone to Georgia, and we got those Titan sensors this year. We got about 15 of those things, and so we're looking at the data on the computer or whatever from coming up from Georgia. Well, the next day, those guys were supposed to go play 3 basketball games somewhere, and I called up the basketball coach, and I'm like, "Damn it, hey man, this dude right here ran 4 miles yesterday."
Yeah.
I don't know if he needs to go play 3 basketball games. So that's another thing. I may have to look at June and really scale June back because I want basketball to be successful. I tell them all the time, I want to win a region championship and everything. I want football, basketball, wrestling, baseball, tennis, track. I want a region championship and everything. But I think sometimes maybe in June, maybe all I ought to do is just open the weight room twice a day, like in the old days, and let kids come in and lift and let them go play 100 basketball games,
Yeah, because at least they're doing something.
Right.
And those Titan sensors are awesome because they let you it's great that you have that because it lets you gauge.
Yes, that's been a huge tool and we're still figuring out what the heck we're doing. I want to have to get on a Zoom meeting or something with Coach Mullins, Dan Mullins, and be like, "Hey man, we're dumb up here. What do we need to be looking at?" But I know one thing: when I look and the kids ran, 3.5 miles in a day, that joker probably needs to have a little easier day the next day.
Right.
I'm just guessing. So, and that wasn't even counting the basketball games those kids had been playing, because they played. We went to Georgia on Wednesday. Well, they played games on Monday and Tuesday. And we got on a bus and left at 4 a.m. and got back at 9 and played 5 games down there in the heat at the University of Georgia. Then they was going to play 3 more basketball games the next day. I'm like, this can't be good for them. So,
well, yeah, you kind of answered my question about how you do summers with, changing it up and scaling things back. And then they come back from this break because, by the time this is aired, we will be a month after the dead week. But we're talking during the dead week. The day before the 4th, you got grilling duties going on. You told me off air before we got started, but you got when you get back from the dead week, I guess it's let's go now. You got to get after it. When do y'all start school up there?
I believe our first day of school is August the 1st, which is flipping ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. I don't understand. You got new teachers going in July the 29th or 30th or something like that. And I don't get it. I don't understand what the difference is. Kids definitely don't seem any smarter nowadays than they were when we used to start. We started here back then, the middle of August, but we never played a game until the last weekend in August. And now kids, we've got a scrimmage on August the 8th, and that's just because we played a spring game, or we'd have one on August the 1st. And so we got a scrimmage on August the 8th, and our first game is the 14th against Ringgold.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's like you're going to put on pads and run into each other 3 days after acclimation. And
yeah,
it's just the schedule. I'm a loud yelling at the clouds guy about the schedule, and something's got to give on that because it's just not. And I know I get it. Not everybody has the same. We're not on a statewide school schedule, and I'm not proposing that, but we can control the athletic schedule.
Yeah,
and I think that's something that needs to be looked at because we didn't do a spring. We actually did like it was like camp really. We weren't even in helmets. We didn't even have all pad. We didn't have a ball. We just went out there and did practice just to teach them how practice goes.
Yeah.
And so there was no scrimmage. So we actually have a scrimmage game August the 1st. And then we play one the next week. And
Yeah.
then we have zero, the first week of the season, we actually are off. And then we have 10 in a row.
Yeah.
So, it's just crazy that we're playing, and it doesn't get as hot up there on the other side of the mountain, but you still in Georgia and it's still the South and it still gets hot.
Oh yeah, it gets cooking up here.
Yeah, I mean, it ain't like it's not like it's 20 degrees difference. It might be 3.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
it's not a huge difference in temperature, but
We're not choking on gnats, but other than that, we're cooking.
yeah, I went up there one time to interview for with somebody that was at Lafayette. My little boy, we were at Early County. My little boy was probably about second or third grade. So we asked him what he thought about it. And he said, I got one question. Do they have gnats up there? No, son. They said, sounds good to me.
See, I almost took that job. I don't know, last year. I almost took it. In fact, I had accepted it. And the only reason I was doing it because they had a 12-month contract and we didn't. And the board came back and gave me a 12-month contract. I didn't try to force their hand on that. That was their idea. But I almost went over there to Lafayette. When I was in school, that's when Raven Teague was at Lafayette. And Lord, they had the Suttles boys and they had some dudes.
Yeah, he's the only person that I've known of to win a lot there. And that was when we were in school, because you and I are the same age. So that was a long time ago.
Well, listening to him talk about it on your show was pretty interesting, just to hear his perspective on that whole thing. Because now my senior year, they beat us by 6. We had them beat to the last minute of the game. But every other year, dude, it was 48-0 by halftime. They were good.
Well, one thing I've learned talking to coaches across the state, and especially up in that area, is try to win the mountains. If you're a Dade County, or if you're a Fannin County, or a mountain school, you're trying to win the mountains. Is that pretty accurate?
Yes, you want to. It's all about trying to get out of this region, to get to the playoffs. If you can find a way to win up here, and that's the thing, and then build a little confidence, because you know how it is when you're at somewhere where we hadn't won a whole lot, and it's just in your mind. Well, hey, if we was playing basketball, this would be a different story, but football, it just, that mindset, and the parents had that same mindset, and I've talked to Coach Cheatham at Fannin County, because I feel like their school was a lot. Now they got more kids and all that up there, but it's still similar to, they don't get other people's kids and we don't get other people's kids, and I don't know if they have people transfer. I don't think they do, because Copper Basin ain't really good like they might have been back in the 80s or whatever, but we don't usually have people transfer either. And so I've talked to him a lot of times about how, he started out and the goal was to make the playoffs, and then it was to win the region championship. And then now he's got the thing rolling. And so I talk to him often about, those steps. And, every time he's like, you're doing just fine. Don't second guess it, all that stuff. But yeah, you're exactly right. You've got to, they had a mindset, a mental block, in my opinion, about the reason they came over here this way is they didn't want to play Rabun County. And I think they might have whipped the crap out of Rabun County this last year, but it's all about winning those mental battles of the people you've always played that's always whipped up on you. If that makes any sense. Like right now in my mind, one of the biggest hurdles we've got to get over, I'm tired of losing to Trine. We'll lose to Trine, and they're not in our region. They were for a couple of years, but we'll lose to them by 7 or by 2 or by 3. And I'm getting tired of Coach Patrick, who I think's, the world of, telling me, man, you guys just play so hard. Getting so daggum tired of that, man. Golly.
Well, let me ask you this. South Georgia, they farm. Yeah. That's the industry. In Atlanta, they've got business. And what do you do in Dade County? Like, what do the kids, when they graduate, what do they go do?
Well, a lot of them go into construction, electrical business. We got a lineman training center here. We got some kids that haul hay and stuff in the summer, but most of that farm work's just hobby work. Daddy's got a few cows, so we cut hay and haul hay, but most of them go, if they don't go to college, they're going in the construction industry somewhere, either as an electrician, or we've got some iron workers, that kind of thing. That's what they do. They'll do that until they get on with somebody like a TVA or EPB or something like that.
It's a very blue collar.
Oh yeah,
type kids.
Yep.
Well, explains
and
why.
That's a big battle to fight too now since COVID. Everybody wants to go to work when they're 16 years old. I mean, I lost a kid who left school, went to homeschool because he won't work, make money, buy a 4-wheeler. Was a kid that would have been, in my opinion, an all-state, single A all-state kid to junior and senior year, and never played as a junior or senior. Started as a freshman and sophomore, but wanted to go to work so he can buy him a 4-wheeler, and went to homeschool and, works with an excavating company, every day of the week.
Making good money.
I'm telling you, at $12 an hour seems like a lot in the beginning.
Yeah, when you're 16, 17 years old, it is.
Yep.
I imagine. Well, totally off the subject. Tell me how you really feel about people in public with companion animals.
I was sitting at Cracker Barrel this morning and looking at an older couple, and I wasn't gonna say nothing. This guy you could tell he was a Marine, had been a Marine, older gentleman. He could bring his dog anything where he pleases, as far as I'm concerned. But I'm sitting there looking, and they've got a stroller that says service dog, do not pet. And I'm thinking, okay, you're feeding that dang dog bacon off the table. That ain't no service dog. I just wonder, when I was a kid living in Germany, that's one thing that I always you go into a McDonald's, well, heck, they'd have a dog in there. And I was like, man, at least we don't do that in the States. Well, that's gone out the window now. Now we got dogs everywhere you go. You go grocery shopping and you run into 2 or 3 dogs.
Yeah, I go into Lowe's and I see people carrying around a little pocket whatever.
Yeah.
And it's their emotional support. Or I've been out to eat before with people that have a Sharpoodle, or I don't know, some little ragged dog, little old cute little dog, and it's their emotional support animal in a restaurant. And I'm like, what are we doing?
I'm telling you,
and they're our age. I'm like, you're Gen X, man. Suck it up. I mean, I get it if you were military and you have PTSD. I am not making light of any of that. I get it. Right. But I'm talking about people that are just regular people.
Yeah.
That are just walking around with these animals. And I'm like, yeah. And then my son, he told me our cat, Smoke, he told me last year, he said, well, he's my emotional support animal. I looked at him, I said, shut up. We don't have, we ain't got one of those.
No.
And I told him yesterday, I said, look, son, we were talking about not having to spend as much money. Like, we were going to buy something I wanted to find something to make the plastic on the golf cart look better because it's faded. So we were in the parts place and I was looking at all the different types of Armor All products and different, companies, and this man sitting there talking to me about them. And I finally looked at him and I said, well, WD-40 will do the same thing, right? And he just kind of looked at me and smiled. He goes, well, yeah, WD stands for water dissolved. And I was like, that's what I thought. So I said, I got a pile of that at the house. So we get back in the truck and I look at Grace and I said, well, that just saved money. And you're an only child. And the cat's going to be dead. So when I'm dead, guess who gets all the money? Me. Right. So the more we don't spend means more for you later. Doesn't that sound like a good idea? Yep. So
he understood that math.
Yeah, he got that math. That he could figure that out. But when he hit me with the emotional support animal, I try as many times as I can to let him know that the cat ain't gonna be here forever.
God, I'm telling you.
And I don't want to hear about this emotional support animal, but I saw your thing on Twitter and I was like, we are going to discuss Coach Poston's stance on emotional support animals in public restaurants.
I'm telling you, man, all the safe spaces and softness. I'm like, why do you want to just go cry all the time about stuff? I had some kids a couple of years ago. They're like, well, we're depressed. I'm like, you know what would help? If you stop hanging out with this guy who also acts like he's depressed, and y'all stop talking about being so depressed.
Yeah, get off your phone and
that's happy.
Go outside and play.
Yeah, go do something with somebody who's happy. See if it don't make you happy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a novel concept. We didn't have this stuff didn't exist 30 years ago. It's like what I tell people all the time. I'm like, I'm sure we had people that had a hard time paying attention when I was growing up, but ADHD wasn't a thing.
No,
your mama just kept hitting you with a stick until you figured out how to function and pay attention. Did that mean we weren't hyper? No. Did that mean we probably didn't have what would be diagnosed as ADHD? No. But we figured it out.
Yeah.
Now the way we figure it out is let's drug them.
Yeah, I can't stand it.
And
I can't stand it.
I told mine, I'm like, I ain't giving you nothing. You're just gonna have to figure it out. I'm not dealing with you. Sorry, dude.
Yep.
I raised him like his circus 1982.
That's the way I raised mine too. I don't know if I'd have told my dad or my granddad, if they'd have told me, "Hey, go out there and split that wood," and I'd be like, "Well, I feel a little depressed today." I can't imagine what that would have went like. Well, you let me know how depressed you are when you get them splitting that wood.
Yeah. How about you depress this axe into that log right there?
That's right.
As many times as you need to till you don't feel like that anymore.
God just gets on my nerves so bad.
It's just a different universe, and here we are depending on them to win us football games on Friday night.
I'm telling you, man.
Tell them the story about the spotting up kid.
Oh yeah, we're down there at Georgia, and it's all my young kids. I want to play. We go somewhere, I'm gonna play them. I don't care if that means we're gonna get our eyeballs, and we're out there playing. And so I put them out, and I'm drawing up plays like we did as a kid on my chest, like we're in the backyard with these young kids. Because I told one of them, said, "Can I play X?" Yeah. Well, he went and lined up at H. Like, all right, that'll work. Anyway, so I'm like, "Here's what you got. You got a out. You got a post. You got whatever." So I want you to go spot up right over the quarterback. This joker, when the ball was snaps, comes running behind the quarterback in a 7-on-7 at the University of Georgia. Oh my God. He said, "I thought you said you want me to spot up behind him." I was like, "Now what play we gonna run behind you? You made it look like we're running a reverse, man."
Yeah, trick play.
Oh God.
It's fantastic. See, it's not just this is not endemic to one area of the state or one part of the country. It is who we're dealing with these days.
No, I hear y'all tell stories when I'm listening.
These
when
kids
I'm
are different.
Mowing grass, and listening to your podcast, and they'll be talking about kids. I'm like, we got the same thing. We got the same thing going on. Makes me feel a little better about it.
Yeah, you're not alone. Well, Coach, I sure do appreciate you coming on and sharing your story from blue-collar roots to going and working in a real job to deciding to come back and pour into the kids of your alma mater, and amazing journey you've had and the success y'all are having up there on the other side of the mountain. I can't wait to see what you guys do this fall, and it sure has been fun talking to you, and I sure do appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us.
And I appreciate you letting me do it.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.